All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cool. Now you're blurred.
Yes.
So
get
what
in
the
focus.
program, how it's going to do is that the first couple of minutes, I'm going to do a very short 3-slide presentation introducing you and introducing the program to those who haven't been to the program, saying how it works. And then after that, I will hand it over to you, Shamla, for and give you about 20 minutes for you to give your life story, if you will, from the time you left CEG or even before, if you would like, to now. What were your journey and what were your significant learnings, things that you learned that you would like to pass on to the audience, etc. All that. And then after 20 minutes, as a host, and myself and Jaitesh will have a few questions for you, fairly open-ended questions. And then after that, audience can ask. So I'll introduce the online free tool that we'll use as part of the program shortly. So audience can use that program to submit questions while you're talking, and we will go through those questions during the second half of the program Q&A session, and we'll ask the person who put the question to ask the question themselves by unmuting them, right? So with that, let me start the presentation really quick. Entire screen. Okay. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, folks. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on the part of the world you are. Welcome to the CEG C Level Connect series. This is number 27 in the series of programs. So we've done 26 programs in the last 26 months. Today is Sunday, October 29th, 2023, 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. A few guidelines for those of you who are new to the program. Please stay muted during the fireside chat session. We don't want any external audio to interfere with the program, so please stay muted. Please turn off your video for now. The host will request all participants to open the video during the second half to take a screenshot. So until the second half, please keep your video off. The speaker, Jaitesh and myself will have our video on. Others can keep it off, and then we will ask you to open the second half to take a picture. This entire session is recorded, Shyamala, and the recording will be available in our public YouTube channel, CEG Connect. In fact, all our previous 26 programs are available in CEG Connect for anyone to view. It's free of cost. You will have to subscribe to the CEG Connect channel for that, however. If you have any questions during the program, please use the Slido program, which I will introduce in the next few slides. In addition to asking questions in Slido, there are also periodic live polls that I can push in Slido. And please, as audience, participate in the poll. These are multiple choice questions or single line questions. We would like to get you to respond to them. It helps us to make the program better for you over the long run. And during the Q&A session, if your name is called, if you have submitted a question, please unmute and open your video to ask your question. Okay, so today's session guest speaker is Miss Shyamala Soundari Kuppusamy. She is CEG 2008 Manufacturing Engineering, currently the Senior Director for Product and Engineering at Lowe's Companies. Lowe's is a home improvement company based in the United States. I'll be the host, and Jaitesh, my friend, will be the co-host, and Partha, my magician, will be the tech support doing all kinds of tech magic. For today's program, we're using Slido. So what you have to do is, regardless of what device you have, go to any browser on any device and type slido.com. Once you type that, you will see a screen which will be asking for a code. You can type in today's program code 5859399. Once you type that in the Slido box, you will get a screen like this, where you have two tabs, a Q&A tab and a polls tab. The Q&A tab, you can ask your question whenever you want. In the polls tab, the poll questions that I'm pushing will appear, so you can respond to them. Please do respond to those questions. We do want to get your responses for that. So poll Q&A and polls tab will be coming on and off. We can use them during the program, and we'll read them at that point. Partha will periodically post the Slido code for those who are joining late, so they can also join the program. Okay, that's all I had for the presentation. Shyamala, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you. As I said, you can take up to 20 minutes to talk about your life story. You can focus on your career, you can focus on other aspects of your life, completely free flow, up to you. When it's about near 20 minutes, I'll give you a little hint, and then we can wrap up and we can go on to the Q&A sessions. It's 8:16 p.m. Indian Standard Time, so you have time until 8:40 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you,
Okay.
Rich. And thanks for the invite. It's really, my pleasure to be here, today, being part of the conversation. So I think a quick background about myself, right? I think I'll start even before CG. So I come from a very small town, was born as a fourth girl child in a very close knit society where girl is not a very welcome addition, right? So education was a privilege, and I really wanted to use the best of it. And then, that's how, landed in CG, like many of you, right? And so when I landed in CG, my thing was, yo, I got this opportunity which was not given to my parents or anybody, any of my people that I know around me. So I was like, I want to use the best use of the opportunity that I've been given. So few things, that really helped me while I was in college that I still kind of take the learnings and use. I'm going to talk through some of those. I think when I was in CG, of course, the basic foundations, right, that you get from your four walls inside the classroom. So your, engineering foundations or whatever, that's so important. So the foundation is so critical for us to lay so that we can build the building on top of it as we evolve. Apart from that, the thing that really helped me is the soft skills. I think, early on, in our education system, we do not emphasize too much of that during our school days, right? So really, we got to use our college days to kind of build that. And that really helped me. For example, I will give three examples. One is NCC Army. So when I joined in 2008, we did not have any women wing in NCC Army, right? I was the first person to join NCC Army. And, it was, we started the first, I was very surprised with a college with a history of 250 years old, how come we did not have an, NCC Army wing for women, right? And so this was this orientation. I was just walking. It happened in the mechanical department, right? So I was just walking to the mechanical department, and there was one senior who was standing outside the department, probably a third year old. I mean, third year, and I think so. He was just, kind of, grinning at me. I was like, "Why is she coming in?" Right? I think I asked him like, "Where is NCC Army?" Like the classroom, right? And then I didn't understand, the kind of reason behind that. But when I entered into the room, I realized a lot of people were coming out as the professor was telling, NCC Army is going to be so tough. The camp is going to be like that. Probably you guys should think about other avenues like NSS or NSO, right? A lot of guys were coming out, and I happened to be the only girl getting into the room, right? So that's probably the reason. And so the professor, he nicely called me and said, look, I know you're very interested in this, but you're the only person right now. Hopefully, we can get a little bit more students from AC Tech once the admissions and the orientation happen there. But for now, you're going to be the only girl, and you can bring, or you can canvas and bring people, from your side. But for now, you're going to be the only. You have two options. Either stick around, or you can very well go and join Navy, where there are some girls, or you can go NSS or NSO, right? But for some reason, I had this affinity towards khaki uniform. No, 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 I want to be there, right? And then he said, you don't have any uniform. Like you got to wear like a, men uniform. And then you got to do the parade with the men, your guys, along with your peers. I was totally okay with it because I made the decision. I felt like, it's at least I can be that seed of starting a wing, right? And CG, right? That's how it started. So the learnings I got there was a couple of things, right? Number one, it's like the grit. I know I had that grit and kind of reinforced it a lot, because many times when you're doing the parade and along with your male peers and whatnot, and then especially Republic Day, right? So you train for like multiple days together. You're already so tired, and you're standing in the sun doing the parade, and you're holding that rifle. And many times you just want to kind of drop it because you can't hold it any longer because somebody's giving a long speech, but you're standing there like, holding onto the rifle in a very, very hot sun. But you still hold it because you don't want to let your team down or your platoon down, right? You hold it, you kind of ensure that you are there, holding the thing, right? So the kind of it reinforce the grit. When the moment when you think you cannot do or push yourself any longer, you kind of still push it through and go, right? I think that's the number one learning, which still helps. And number two is the discipline and the value for time, right? I think even if you're late for a couple of minutes, we would ask to roll on the floor or, do sit-ups, 100 sit-ups or, whatever it is, right? It was so, at that time, it was very, very strict. And even now it reminds me, I really value the time of the team that's waiting for me, or even when I go to a meeting or whatever, right? So really the value of time and the discipline and the leadership that comes with it, right? So that's the learning I got from NCC. So I advise, if you're in college, leverage some of these opportunities, because these are some learnings that will help you throughout your career and life, right? And number two, I would say I was part of this club called SQC, Students Quality Club. I'm not sure what it is called right now. So I used to be part of that. And I was part of their leadership team at that time. And so I was hosting the quality management quiz. So I was leading the entire quiz program for all the different companies, right? All this, executives do come. We do have an annual conference, hosting all the quiz. So at one event, I think such event, we call it Q Quest. So in one such event, I was organizing the quest competition for, all the alumni group or all the different, engineers and managers. So this alumni who came for that meeting, so he was probably once a president of SQC, and he was in McKinsey at that time, and he was just part of that meeting. And then he spotted me there, and then he said, Shamla, I think you've been doing a brilliant job in organizing the whole conference and leading the quiz competition and whatnot. So I have a friend, his name is Baiju, and he wants to start an edtech company. So would you be interested in connecting with him? Right? I think that was just an organic, and wish you, as you were talking about networking, right? So all of these avenues really, really helped. And I strongly believe in that, a network is your net worth in a way, right? I think the amount of network that you can build throughout your life. And SQZ really helped me, just not with the student community, but also with the alumni community. And they connecting me to an entrepreneur who wants to build the, one of the major ed tech that is today, right? We'll talk more about it. So that's my, learning from SQC, like, coming from a small town, helping hone my communication skills and also building my network. And then the third thing is, I used to be part of this thing called Anna FM. Probably Jaitesh can relate to media science. It's a pretty close, right? And coming from an engineering background, I always, one of my friends pulled me into it. So I really liked the concept of RJing. So I was like, okay, let me give it a try. And then I was an RJing in Anna FM for a brief period. And as part of that, we started, coming up with a program, like, where we want to just not interview like accomplished people, but also people who come from different professions, like a fisherman or a manhole worker. Like, what do they go through in their life? What is that? We really wanted to kind of focus on the rest of the community, right? So as part of that, we interviewed a manhole worker, and we were so surprised of he was narrating his, everyday life. And I was like mind blown with how a human being can enter into a manhole to do, clean the manhole, right? And where it is not legal. And also, like, thousands of manhole workers were dying because of that. And we were like progressing in technology, and what are we doing? Like, as a manufacturing engineer, I'm sitting here and not solving that problem, right? That kind of intrigued me and my friend, and we created a contraption that kind of, make it easy for manhole workers to clean it. And it's kind of, that's where I probably learned, how do we really empathize what is going around and identify customer problems and leverage technology to solve those problems, right? Even now I kind of take it with me. Any product that we build, what is the key customer problem that we're trying to solve? Is it really addressing the problem, right? How can we innovate on behalf of the customers? The customer may not know what they want, but how can we innovate on behalf of the customers? So that's the learning, right? And in college, so I think, this how I probably, heard a lot of learnings in college outside of classroom, which I encourage the current students to explore. Three things, right? Explore, experiment, and experience. Explore the different avenues, experiment it. You may like it or you may not like it, but do experiment it and experience it. Sometimes you fail. It's okay. I mean, those are learnings. So, explore, experience, and experiment. These are the three things I would say. And I think when I graduated from CG, I was actually thinking about all three different avenues, right? I was wanting to do MBA from my third year, being part of SQC. And then that was the time then, it was a cool thing, you got to do an MBA, like, and all of that, right? So I really wanted to do an MBA. And then the second thing, of course, I wanted to take a job offer because, studying in CG, I wanted to have a, job for myself. I kind of took a job opportunity. And then the third thing, I was also very interested in entrepreneurship even during college. I was part of the Alumni Association, hosting a lot of entrepreneurship related sessions and whatnot, even as part of SQC. I was really intrigued about entrepreneurship even at that time. So I kind of, wanted to do all of it, just not one, but I wanted to do all of it. So I met with Baiju through my connection in SQC, and it was just part of like probably it was just like a 4-member team. I was the 5th member in the team at that time, and Baiju was putting together the tech company. He said like, Shamla, I'm just building this. I need someone who can establish the operations in Tamil Nadu and then also kind of build the product along with me, right? So that's the thing, whole thing started. And I was with Byju's for 4 years, literally, building the operations and doing pretty much everything. As all we know, entrepreneurship is not easy, right? You kind of, operate at all levels, different levels, right? So that was my 4 years with Byju's. And then meanwhile, I also took an offer with an IT technology consulting company. Whatever company that came first day placement, I took it because I just wanted to keep it as a backup, just in case, if I don't get my, master's like MBA immediately in admit. So I need some backup. That's how was the mindset at that time. So I took a job offer and kept it. And I did do that as well. And then I was parallelly doing both my technology consulting job and Byju's, right? It was like predominantly evenings I do Byju's and weekends it was that. And then during the daytime, I used to go and do the technology consulting job. So a lot of great learnings from Byju's, especially I think what a startup is all about. How do you really identify your product market fit and build the product from the scratch? And it's just there has been multiple times, I go and sit, in the morning, I go and probably sit with one of the major vice chancellors of a major private institution and sign a deal. And in the afternoon, I get a call. Oh my God, we are run out of pamphlets in a college distribution. Can you come to the college and distribute pamphlets? Right? It's kind of that. You kind of do sign a deal in the morning, and the afternoon you run to kind of distribute pamphlets. That's kind of what entrepreneurship is all about, right? So I was, it was a great experience being part of the journey. And then from the technology consulting, I joined as a developer, as as many of us out of college. So I was, coding for a year. And then I always had this interest towards business. I really wanted to, see the bigger picture and probably do a business consulting or a sales or a product management, kind of function. So what I did that, one of my mentor at that time also suggested, she said, like, why don't you reach out to your, executives in the company? So I kind of did a sort of a cold emails. I drafted cover letters for each and every sector. I chose retail, telecom, and banking. So I kind of chose these three sectors and did a little bit of research and wrote cover letters to the heads of each of these departments, right? So these are the global heads of retail, global heads of telecom, and I don't know whether they will even open my email. I was just, 1 year into the company. I'm just like winging it. So I just, researched a little bit and I wrote a cover letter about why I'm really interested in this industry or how it is evolving and how I can contribute from my skill set and whatnot, right? And, and then like probably I got reply from one or two. I wrote to 5 of them and I got reply from 1 or 2. They said, yeah, this is great work. Let's stay connected. That's it, right? I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I spent a month, prepping for it. It didn't work. But then I didn't leave it. Then I reached out to my direct boss at that time and told, like, look, I'm really interested in exploring the business side of things, not just the coding aspect of it. And this person said, and luckily the retail head did respond to me. She also responded, great work, right? She has already seen my work. And then I told him, I got a response, but I want to pursue and, take it to the next level. And then he also sent a note to her and then made the connection. And, finally she gave me a meeting at like 8 p.m. in the night. So I said, like, can you come to my room? And then I went and I was super excited. And she looked at my resume and definitely CG brand helped. She said, oh, you're from CG, then you must be, kind of helps, right? So, and then she told me, like, look, I want you to really observe. You can go and sit with my team and observe what they're doing because, they do different kind of things. One is pre-sales or sales of, technology. And then the second is, business consulting. You can be, work with the clients directly and provide your thought leadership there. So I would say, like, go sit and observe and come back and tell me what you really want to do. And there is also a product management function where we build in-house products, right? As a technology company, we do build in-house products. But I want you to observe and come back to me to say, like, what you really want to do. So it was like a 2-week observation. I went in, I sat there and observed everything. And I went back to her and said, I want to do sales. Sales sounds so cool. I want to sell software. I said, I think like, she was like, you're too young to sell a software. Just like 1 year in the company. And I would probably, I would put you in the pre-sales. You can just help the sales department, build all the content and be part of the presentation, observe how sales is done, because sales predominantly happens in different parts of the, world, right? People go there and directly, pitch it to the clients. So I was just, doing pre-sales for 6 months, putting together all the decks and stuff, and I got bored. I was like, this is not what I want to do, right? I mean, I'm not really excited doing the decks. And then I came back to her and said, look, I mean, I'm so happy you gave me this opportunity, but I want to do something more. And then I really want to be on the client side and then do work, like do product management or business consulting, right? And she said, okay, I hear you, but there is no opportunity at the moment. I'll keep you in your mind. And then, that's how it went. And I was still there. And the meanwhile, I'm prepping for all these exams, right? So that's the other side of me. I want to do MBA, right? So I wrote CAT and all of it. But also, when I met Byju's, I also knew about this whole aspect of doing MBA abroad. That also really intrigued me. I said, like, people said, oh, you do MBA and IIMs, and as a lot of people go and do another MBA in US. I said, like, why should we do two? Probably I'll do directly an MBA in US, not in India, right? So that's kind of the thought at that time. And I said, okay, I'm going to try for an MBA abroad. So I wrote GMAT, GRE, IELTS, what all sort of exams, right? I wrote all kinds. But the interesting thing is, yeah, of course, it's too expensive. It's about like, 200, 250 grand, right? It's not easy. And luckily, I got a Reliance fellowship, right, where, in Stanford. So 100% fellowship to study MBA in Stanford. So I got a scholarship from Stanford. I mean, Reliance. They picked about like 5 students all over in India to kind of go and study MBA in Stanford. And interestingly, I was the only non-IITian and McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, right? So that's a profile because somehow they kind of picked my, resume, and then I got selected. And in the meanwhile, I got, and through this technology company, I got an offer. Like, now there is a client in London, like in Sainsbury's. They want somebody to build their e-commerce product, right? They want somebody in, the e-commerce, space. So would you be interested in going? So I said to myself, okay, I am excited to explore that opportunity because London, and also it gives me a global exposure that also helps me with my resume in my MBA applications. So I said yes. So that was a tough call because I was doing Byju's, which I was also passionate about, and also I want to go to London, explore the world outside. So that was the toughest call I had to make. How should I leave Byju's, or should I do that? Because honestly, at that point, it was more like startup was not as fancy as it is today, right? It's like not people, even my like close uncle used to come and say, oh, you studied analysis and you are working in a tuition center. That's what he said, right? Do you really want to do that? You better should go to London, not, I mean, like, that's how it is. And even that time it was very small. Byju's was not as big as it is right now. It was a very small, company, right? So, and then I took that call and I went to London. So I was there and I was working, and I got a couple more admits with Ross and all of different B schools there, and was about to go for an MBA. But life had different plans. So my father got cancer, and he soon passed away. So I had to come back to India to kind of take care of the family and whatnot, right? And I shelved my MBA plan. Okay, I'm not going to do it now because I need to take care of the family responsibility. And then I was in India, and then I got another opportunity in Dubai because Dubai is pretty close, so I can come back home easily, right? Unlike the Western, like probably Dubai probably is closer. So I went to Dubai and worked for a major conglomerate called Alfuttaim. So these guys probably own about 40 to 50% of the real estate in Dubai, and all of the retail, a lot of the retail companies come and work through these guys. So be it like your Marks and Spencer or Guess or, Toys R Us or all of these different Ace Hardware plugins, all of these companies operate through Alfuttaim Retail. So my role was to kind of really consult the retail CEO on e-commerce, right? Because e-commerce was a fairly new thing for them. The Western countries have started adopting, but not Middle East, right? And it was a very interesting challenge, especially for the business GMs. I had to really, really evangelize e-commerce at that time because they were saying, oh, we have all of these malls and everything. That is the culture in Dubai. Because of the weather, people go to malls and only shop, and e-commerce is not going to fly. We're not willing to put that much of an investment in e-commerce, right? So that was the kind of attitude at that time. So my role was primarily to convince all of these business GMs, to say like, okay, let's invest in e-commerce. That's a way to go. And fast forward a few years after that, I met one of the GM in NRF in New York. National Retail Federation is a major conference. And that person said, Shyamala, glad that you told us to invest because we are seeing a lot of revenue coming from e-commerce today, right? So that's how, my role was in Dubai. And after that stint, I got opportunity to go to the US. So I came to the US and I worked for some of the major retailers like Sears and Toys R Us. Sears is one of the, it's general merchandise retailer. And then Toys R Us is a specialty toy retailer. So I kind of worked with them primarily on their digital transformation. And when I was in New Jersey working for Toys R Us, that's where I had a little bit of money and also time at that time. So I thought, now I have to make my dream a reality to some extent. So I went to Harvard and did my executive program in HBS, right? I took a break and then went ahead and did that. So it was an amazing time, spent at Howard, especially the kind of network that you build. For me, honestly, more than anything else is the network and the people you meet and the professors, right? Even now I can bounce idea with, some of the HBS professors, right? They kind of, really, they know you, they are willing to help you. And even the peer network, a lot of it across the globe, in that program, we had about people representing probably like 40 odd countries, in that single program, right, that I was in. So you kind of build the network across the globe. And all of these are very close network, right? Now I can call anybody and then anybody is like willing to kind of provide their inputs or, help. Somebody says, yeah, why don't, if you come to Croatia, just come and stay with us, right? So those kind of connections you kind of built. So that was really helpful when I went to Harvard. So that in a way, I kind of made my dream a reality that I want to do an MBA, right? So after that, I got a call from Macy's and Bloomingdale's in the Silicon Valley. So Macy's is one of the top fashion retailer, and they are based out of San Francisco. They had a major building in San Francisco, building their .com business. So I got a call from them, and they said, we really want somebody to come and build our e-commerce business, like kind of a critical part of the e-commerce business. So I kind of took that role up, and it was very exciting. I love being in fashion retail with Macy's, and Bloomingdale's is part of, it's a high end fashion. Bloomingdale's a little bit high end, but it's based out of New York. So I had teams in both of these coasts. Really loved my journey there. And then I got a call while I was doing that. I got another opportunity in the valley that there was this marketplace, a private insurance marketplace, health insurance marketplace. They reached out to me to head their entire product. So it's kind of a P&L owner. Like I was running their 80% of their business. It was for Medicare and Medicare supplement, all of these products, the insurance products. So I did that stint for a bit. And meanwhile, I got a call from Lowe's, so which I'm currently right now. So that is one of the Fortune 40 company, close to $100 billion revenue. And my role was to primarily come in and transform the e-commerce business and also build the product management function from the scratch. So I really loved that opportunity. I said like, yeah, wow, okay, being part of home improvement in such a large company, it's going to be great. And then I took that opportunity and came here, and it's been amazing. If you think about it, e-commerce business, we have grown about for 3 to 4 times in the last 3 or 4 years, right? From where when I started till now, the e-commerce has grown like 4x in terms of revenue, right? And especially during pandemic, it was a very, very interesting learning for me, right? Happened to be like, in home improvement during pandemic. And as you guys all know, like we sell a lot of non-discretionary products, like, all cleaning products. It was a crazy, right? It was all selling out, and every day in e-commerce was like a Black Friday. For people who've been in retail probably would know what a Black Friday in e-commerce or retail, right? So that's when you get the majority of the sales. And during pandemic, every day we were getting like a peak volume, like it's hitting the site, like people are wanting to buy cleaning products, or a lot of panic stuck. People want to buy refrigerators to store stuff, or everything, like every day the demand was shifting to different kind of products. So we have to be really, really nimble and agile, right? And also we want to think about how do we enable some of the capabilities on the fly, say curbside pickup. A lot of customers were not willing to go into the store. They wanted to come and kind of pick it up from the curbside. So we didn't have that capability at that time, but we had to kind of roll it off within a week or within like a month or so across like different stores. And imagine rolling that out for 2,000 odd stores with a lot of operation element involved during pandemic, and people are afraid to come to stores, and you are like juggling with so many kind of hiring remote, onboarding people remote, or people are figuring it out all, right? Working remote was a hard thing, but your business is also like at the peak. Like, how do you manage all of it, right? So it was like a very, very interesting journey for me. And also at that time, personally, I was going through a high risk pregnancy. So my first time, I was just having my child, and it was like juggling all of it. And then it was a great, great learning, for me, both I think professionally and personally as well. How do we pull the business forward? And we didn't stop, right? We were like doing a lot of digital transformation at that time. We were migrating from infrastructure from an on-prem to a Google Cloud platform at that time, right? When it is a Black Friday every day. So the transformation is continuing to happen, meeting the business demands, and scaling the team and all of it. And successfully, we've been doing really well. Our online business has grown tremendously, and we are continuing to grow every year, even after the pandemic, right? So that's been an amazing experience with Lowe's. I would say I continue to enjoy the ride here. And maybe I think round off the conversation with a couple of thoughts about, for especially women in tech, right? I'm really, really passionate about it. As you probably know from my background as, fourth girl child, not, deprived of education. I was like, oh yeah, I want to bring in a lot more women in tech as well, right? So that's kind of one of the things I'm really passionate about. So a few nuggets, right? I'm not sure how many women are on the call, but I strongly believe it's a conversation for everybody, right? Many women conference is only for women. And we try to coach women, but the conversation is for everybody who are part of the conversation and part of the system, right? I would say the first thing is, especially if it's all about for women, is number one, own your space. I think, when I started in London, many times I've been the only woman in the room, right? Or I still continue to be, in some cases, the only women in the room or only women in the conversation, whatnot. And sometimes it feels like you're a minority, but it is okay, right? You are in the room for a reason. You are there to add your value, right? So own the space. So I mean, I always feel whenever my team, right, even when I'm there, some of my women associate, they come and take a seat close to the door. I said, like, why are you taking the seat close to the door? Come and take the seat in the center, right? I think just own your space, voice your opinion, because you're there for a reason, and make yourself heard, right? Nobody is gonna kind of keep asking, right? You gotta push your opinion and share your opinion no matter what. And so that's the key aspect, I would say. And the second thing I would say is, this is something which there's one of my mentors, if you remember, the first retail leader who gave me an opportunity, right? So she gave me this thought, right? And I still, it's so helpful, especially in one of the things is like only three words. It's just about just show up, right? Especially for women, there are many circumstances that may force you not to show up, and we do not have women in workforce not because they are not performing or thriving. It's just because they are not able to show up, right? Because it could be either your life situation, that you get married, or you follow your spouse, or you get your child, you become the primary caregiver, or you're giving care to your elderly people at home, like whatever could be the reason, right? So you are not able to show up to work. But I would always recommend, personally, I also had that moment, right? When I had my first child, and then I'm becoming a little bit vulnerable here and sharing my personal story, right? So when I had my first child, and it was during pandemic again, as I mentioned, the business was highly demanding. My responsibility was very demanding at the time. And also I was going through this high risk pregnancy. And here, I think, you just have like probably 6 to 8 weeks of leave, right? 2 months. Within 2 months, you gotta, I went back to work. I was excited to go back to work, but I was not completely healed, physically, mentally, and emotionally, right? It's like I've been trying to be the best version of mom to my child, and I'm also wanting to be the best leader at work. So I'm like trying to give my best in both worlds. And I had my burnout too. And I was like, in many instances, I felt like, oh, should I, I wake up and I feel like, do I want to go to work, right? I cannot shy away from my responsibility of being a mom, but other thing I can say no, right? But this kept reminding me, it's okay, just show up, right? Maybe today you don't have to do a lot of presentation or do any other extra things that you want to do, but just show up, right? But I'm not saying like, even while you're burnt out, just try and push yourself hard, take your break, and refresh yourself, and kind of regain yourself. But I would say it is so important not to quit. I think that's the key part, so that we have a lot more women workforce, in the technology space, right? That's the key. Yeah, I think as male counterparts, I always encourage, to kind of be part of the conversation and encourage, women in the room, and, be it your peers or your team members or your own family members, whatever be it, right? Yes, so that's it from my wish. I don't know
Yeah.
whether how it walked with the 20 minutes, but
You did very well. You did a little extra than 20 minutes, but it was quite awesome. Few things I had to tell you. I can relate to most of the things you're telling. I'm not a woman, obviously, but I was born as two sisters and two daughters.
Oh wow.
I didn't have any male company, and for a while at work, when I was working
Mhm.
for Sabre, my entire team was all women actually.
Oh
Uh,
wow. That's
so it is. I do understand some of the challenges that people go through. My sisters went through. My daughters today go. My daughter works for Google now in San Francisco, and she tells me things about even in Google, the most progressive company in the world. She says it's not very fair even today, right?
yeah, yeah.
The second thing I can tell is that CEG Connect as a program, I'm proud to say that we are very equal opportunity. Out of my 27 speakers, I had 13 women, and you are the 14th woman.
It's
So
awesome.
it's equal men and women. So we have men and women. And third thing I can say is that CEG, I don't know if you know, Shyamala, is that CEG is a very gender neutral college. We have almost, I think, nearly 50% girls overall. And in
Hmm.
some departments like computer science and triple ECE and all that, we have more women than men. So
Oh
I
wow,
don't,
that's interesting.
yeah. Overall, I'm saying the entire the number of students who come into the freshman year every year, we
Yeah.
have almost equal women and men.
That's awesome. Like, how is it in mechanical department? Because when we studied, there was like only one girl. She used to come and sit with us in manufacturing. So like, I don't want to sit in the class.
Mech-
Now you'll have
Mechanic,
probably 5 to 6 women.
yeah,
No doubt.
it's grown by 500% from 1 to 5. Thank you. But
But
still a long way to go. Civil is getting some people, but mostly the women settle for electrical or electronics, IT and CS. CS and IT, I believe, is overwhelmingly girls actually.
yeah, I
Um,
can
I
I can
see.
tell you the departments that have the most girls. It's,
Not surprisingly, not
yeah.
surprisingly. The second thing I want to tell you about CEG, Hamla, you may not know this. There is a student group called Akriti in
Okay.
CEG. Akriti is a student group made by girls of CEG for CEG, and
Oh,
and
nice.
and
Okay.
these people, this Akriti group, the student club arranges things for alumni, women alumni, to come and talk to them. So I think you will be an exceptionally good choice to talk to the team about your experience, because all these girls are going to be facing very similar situation like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I try my best to connect the alumni I know from CEG to this group, and they invite them for discussions and presentations. So I would
I would
definitely want to. So I'll tell Shirish, who's in the call. Shirish, take note to introduce Shyamala to the lady who's running Akriti. So if you can connect her, because I think her life story, what she described so far, is a perfect story for people in Akriti to hear. Um,
would
Yes, sir.
love to.
Yes, noted.
Yeah.
Three things I noticed, Shamla: never say no, or don't take no for an answer. Second thing is that if you do screw up, you have to roll on the floor. I can't believe you said that actually. And third thing is the struggle between being a mom versus being a working woman. I think all three of them will definitely resonate very well with all the people who are going to be listening to you. So I think the story is awesome. I had to say that some of the women who came to a program, whether it's Charu or whether it is other people who came to the program, all of them had very amazing stories. All the 13 women who have come to this program today had very amazing. I think you should connect with all 13 of them, because you all have some very unique story which is not common amongst most women, in
Mm.
terms of how you got to where you got to despite the environment not working in your favor. I think it's about time that CEG starts putting together a alumna club to share between you guys the experiences. We have people from CG, women alumni, who are in very top positions all over the world. One example is the lady who runs the NPCI, the UPI that we
Mm.
have. UPI, Praveena Rai, she's a CG alum. She's a chief operating officer. She is the architect of UPI.
Oh,
All the GPay, Paytm, all the great things India is using today, she's the architect. Her team put it whole together. She's still with
that's
them right
awesome.
now. She was one of my guests, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
like that, there are very many women. Charu Srinivasan was in the session about two. She's a leader in Microsoft Azure, for example. So I think I'm going to ask you guys to connect and do something together for the rest of the girls, because as a team of 10, 12 very powerful, successful alumni, I think you guys could be a terrific influence, not just on the girls, but also on the boys of CEG, I think. Yeah, do
For
something
sure.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Love to
awesome
be.
story, very awesome. I love the retail business because I worked a lot of retail customers as well. Retail industry in the US is going through a very difficult time, as you know very well. You should know very well. A lot of
Yeah,
store closings, a lot of things going down, a lot of bankruptcies, etc. All that. So you're in a field which is challenged right now, obviously. But Lowe's is doing well. No, home business, home improvement business is doing well. So good luck to you. And I also know your boss very well. Simantini is a very good friend of mine as well. She's another awesome woman that I have. She had worked in my team very long time ago in Sabre, and she's extremely awesome girl as well.
that's
So,
awesome.
so with that, I want to turn it to Jaitesh for him to pepper you with some questions from a youngster, and he'll ask you questions.
No, I was just first of all, I must say, like Vishit said, I was blown away by your entire story. It seems like I think you've been emulating Narayana Murthy's words from the time you graduated from college. You've not been working 70 hours a week. I think you've been working throughout the week, doing
Oh,
in the
okay.
morning, a
I
job in
don't
the night.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
he's
Yeah,
recently in the news because he
yes,
stated
yes.
saying
Yeah.
youngsters must work 70 hours a week, and everyone in India were in shock. We're like, what, sir? What are you saying? But that actually made me curious too, because I think you're the right person where I should ask that question too. You are somebody who has done that. You've done the work of working as how much hours as prescribed by somebody who's run something like Infosys, but you've also seen the burnout that it causes, and you've seen you know how the personal side of things also are needed. You need the time off for taking care of your kids. So where would you stand on that kind of a statement? Do you believe that it's kind of true, or do you think that no, it's a little too harsh, we can't really do that?
See, I would probably leave it to individual choice, right? I think it should not be enforced. And as you mentioned, even at times when I did both, consulting job and also buy juice, it was my personal choice, right? I
Hmm.
enjoyed doing both of it. I didn't even, until you mentioned, I didn't even realize I would have been putting so many hours, right? Because I really enjoy doing it.
Hmm.
And again, I think it's an individual choice. I think as an enterprise, we don't want to enforce somebody to work for such long hours. Like, people will have different perspectives and preferences. A lot of people may be at a different a point in their life journey, right? Probably like an new mom, or like caring for their elderly at home, or whatever be it. I think it should not be an enforcement, but given as a personal choice. And it is up to the individual to choose, right? In terms of how do they want to take number of hours they want to work or whatever. But personally, I would say it is a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? You're running a marathon, your career is a marathon. So you didn't want to like put in too many hours at one single time and burn yourself. Rather,
Hmm.
take it with the right pace and have the right balance so that you have your energy retained for the entire marathon. So that's how I would say it.
All right, interesting. And also, since you had mentioned a lot of brands that have been in the news, obviously, of late, and these are brands that you can't ignore, I have been a little curious. Like, right from stories of things like Toys R Us, it is a brand that I've been following for a while, especially after The Big Short. And I think you're the first person I'm meeting who's worked inside a company like that. So maybe can you walk us through that experience? How was it being a part of that journey? And when the company has to go through something like bankruptcy for no fault of theirs, but by mere external factors, by people sitting completely away and who call the shots and can completely destroy an entire brand which has so much of actual customer value, a lot of emotional value, and suddenly you just see it come crashing down for no reason, of no fault of the people working behind it. How did
Yeah.
that pan out?
See, I would say, I think, as Vish pointed out, the last probably like couple of decades has been challenging for retail, right? Especially with the advent of e-commerce, and we know the brand, right? Amazon, and it's been kind of eating the lunch of many of these retailers. And many of the categories are easily disruptable, right? Say, think about electronics or books, or a lot of these things are easily disruptable. But the retailers that survived are the ones who just not look technology as an enabler, but also the driver of the business, right? I would pick possibly like, say, the Toys R Us. I've been part of Toys R Us, of course,
Mhm.
but I think I felt that it was a way too late in the game. They were figuring out what they wanted, they should have
Ah,
been doing, right? I think
okay.
in terms of e-commerce. When I joined, I think that until then they were like part of eBay. eBay was running their e-commerce and they owned all their data. They were doing the entire thing. They were just, not investing as much as in e-commerce as they should have done it a little bit ahead of time. Right.
Okay.
And it was way too late. It kind of figured out, what they should be doing. Right. I would probably pick Best Buy for an example. It was a retailer that was at the brink of almost kind of getting dissolved, right? Bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
But then what they did, and it's such an easily disruptable category. Think about electronics, anybody can buy phones on Amazon and whatnot, right? But what they did is they really came and pivoted their entire strategy, right? And they put technology in the forefront, number one. And number two is they started thinking about how do they leverage their strength of stores and expertise, right? So they had a number of stores which they turned into more of an experience centers and fulfillment centers, right? They were the ones who started fulfilling the orders through stores, because before that it was always through the warehouse, right? It ships from the warehouse, it takes about a week to reach, and the customers do not have patience to wait for a phone for, like, when Amazon can deliver it in a couple of days, right? So they
Yeah.
started like delivering using their stores as fulfillment centers and experience centers that kind of bridge that gap where they can meet the customer where they want to be met, right? And the other thing is they started leveraging their expertise of what do they called a geek squad. So they were really good at their business, right? People go to Best Buy to really understand or hear the expertise of, oh, which particular you know gadget should I buy. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of the expertise was really valued.
Okay.
And they started this whole geek squad to kind of bridge that gap. So I would say it's all about, from the Toys R Us standpoint, I felt personally, it is more like, the external force was really there, but also I think internally it was not disrupting at the pace that we wanted to be, disrupted, and at the time that we should have been disrupted ourselves. I think that's possibly, I want to end it there, right? But the
Oh,
good thing is now Macy's has bought the brand, and they're kind of trying to reestablish Toys R Us within Macy's brand and whatnot.
okay.
But definitely, it's one of my favorite brands, and it's just hard, disheartening to kind of see, But like I found it, I felt happy when Macy's kind of took over Toys R Us a little bit later. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
that's the story, yeah.
Nice.
I had worked with Target, Asina. I'd worked with JC Penney's as part of the setting up the India Center. All this, by the way, all these retail companies have an India Center now in Bangalore. So Target and all these people had very different challenges, And Asina particularly was going through a very difficult time. And Asina is not a brand that is very well known in the US. It's a very big presence in the US, but people don't know about them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They were able to turn around. And back to the Best Buy story, the one who did that turnaround was also a woman, by the way, and she did a terrific job. I sent her a cold LinkedIn request once she replied. Right,
Oh, nice.
right during the time when she was doing all this turnaround, I was like, really? I mean, I wrote to her saying that this is an amazing job you're doing. Congratulations. I just wrote a cold. She replied saying, "What can I do more?" I'm like, wow, that's some level of humility,
Oh, yeah,
amazing.
humility, right? Yeah, that's amazing.
Unbelievable. I was completely blown away by the fact she actually replied, first of all. And secondly, said, "What can you do more about what I'm doing now?" And we had a little chat on the phone, etc. Amazing people. Amazing people.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
anyway, we have some questions on the line, Shamla, if you can go to the
Sure.
questions. I'm going to start with the first question here. Um, let's see. Which will you prefer? And Arul is asking the question. Arul, can you please unmute and ask your question?
So what I wanted to ask is, do you prefer the real experience of managing teams and heading communities or societies, or would you prefer an MBA degree?
See, I think, from the experience standpoint, of course, like hands-on experience is going to really help. But as I mentioned earlier, MBA, personally, right, from my experience, I would say, it was helpful in a couple of ways. Number one is the network. Again, the network, right? Your peer network and your professor, academia network, whatever you gain, the network is going to be the differentiating factor when you do a degree for a couple of years in one of the top institutes, right? So that's going to be helpful. And the second thing is probably some of the skill sets that you would acquire, like what you would be acquiring maybe like 4 years in CEG, right? The soft skills that you would get. Similarly, in a B school, probably you would be running a venture club, or you would be running some, entrepreneurship club, or, all of those soft skills you could, developed during in school, and maybe some frameworks. And honestly, I feel like frameworks as well, you can learn it. Now education is completely decentralized and easily available. You can even learn those frameworks that you learn in business schools through other means. But the only thing is networking and the soft skills, the interpersonal skills that you would develop at the institute. I think those are the two things that you would get it from doing an MBA. But for managing teams, I would say, learn it by doing. I think that's the best way to learn.
Yeah, I think the whole learning, whole educational learning itself is so disrupted now that I sometimes wonder if it's even worth going to college anymore. Actually,
Yeah, I think things are changing, right? Yeah, you're right.
yeah, skill development with some amount of self learning would probably provide a much better result than I can tell you personal experience. I'm a psychological counselor. I went and got a degree in psychology. I can tell you that people who did 3 years of BSc and 2 years of MSc and did the post graduation with me don't have the ability to do it because skill development was not there. See, the degrees were just giving you theory, right? Whereas I did a skill development course for 1 year and I'm able to counsel. And guess what? My first three clients were my classmates in psychology
Mm.
who studied with me psychology, right? So I think skill development is very important. I think in all skills, and then if you have some amount of education, self learning through online learning, etc., then I think college becomes very less relevant, in my opinion. I'm not suggesting people don't go to college, but it's becoming less and less important, to do that. And for people going for masters, I still really question: is it really worth the money to putting for a masters when you could develop some of those things?
Yeah.
Now, of course, like, networking is very important. You have to go to an institution to study, clearly. But once you finish bachelor's, is master's really required? I'm not so sure at this point. The ROI is not very clear on that, right? So before
Yeah.
you go to the next question, I want people to open up your video so we can take a small screenshot. So please, all of you, open your video while we are going to the next question. Thank you. So the next question, Shamla, is from Anonymous. How is your experience in corporate world as a women engineer? I think you already covered that to some extent, right?
Yeah.
So we'll skip
So
that. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I think as I mentioned, I pretty much covered that. I think being there and voicing your opinion, that's going to be the key, and keep asking what you want. Maybe a couple of things which I missed to mention early on is even from the pay gap perspective, right? So I
Yeah.
used to advise a startup based on the Silicon Valley. It's called 81 Cents. So that's a startup primarily focused on addressing the pay gap between genders, right? So where like a male counterpart gets $1 and a woman gets only 81 cents. And when I was part of that startup and I started like mentoring and being part of their advisory committee, the interesting thing is the statistics or the reports say 81 cents, but the actual reality is much worse, right?
Mm,
It's not even 81 cents. It's like even 60 cents in certain cases or 50 cents.
mm,
So I think it is important that women, and also the male counterparts really understand that and ensure that there is no pay parity. And women need to ask for it when they kind of see it. Go and ask for it. There is no harm in doing it. So please do it along the course of your career, both for pay as well as for your role. If you think you will be suited for that role better, go ask for it. Nobody's going to give you, right? Own your career and go ask for it. And that's one key advice I would say. And apart from that, I would say one thing that really helped me as a woman, I know if you had read this book called Lean In, the Sheryl Sandberg would have
mm.
given an advice. The most important career decision a woman can make is choosing the right life partner, right? So that's the most important career decision because I can tell my own story because my spouse, when I got this job in the Silicon Valley, like he was, in Amsterdam. He was an IMA graduate. He was in TAS. He was given a car, house, and everything. Maid, including a maid. That's a big thing, right? In Amsterdam, and he was doing his stuff. And we were choosing between me Amsterdam or he coming there. But then I also tried, but then it was a very smaller market compared to the US. And then he said, "Okay, you be there. Your opportunity is much better. Then I'll come for you," right? So that kind of made me make my own choices and progress in the career. So I feel that that's also a key decision that women should keep in mind, especially when you're passionate about career. Choose your partner wisely, who's going to respect and encourage your passion.
Amazing. Amazing. You're talking like my daughter now. My daughters tell me all the time, Dad, we have our needs. We will take care of ourselves. Uh, we know who to choose. Both of them, by the way, chose their own partners, so that's a lot easier for
That's,
me, actually.
yeah,
So
that's
the
good.
next question on the line comes from Anonymous. My question is 9 to 5 job or entrepreneurship is the question.
9 to 5 job and entrepreneurship.
Or entrepreneurship. They're asking which
Or,
one would you.
or entrepreneurship.
Uh,
Okay, okay.
who
Actually,
who asked the question? Can you identify yourself? Maybe you can give some
Ah,
context.
so Sirish.
Uh, uh, what was the context of the question? We can explain a little better.
yeah.
Hi, sir. So, firstly, when Sir address, I was really impressed by this response to Narayana Murthy's speech. There was a guy who replied to this, to the tweet of his, saying that youth employment in India is 45 percentage. Uh, so we can employ two workers who work for 40 hours a week. So, as like that, there are always simpler routes to do. So, what I'm asking is, I know it's a bad joke, what I'm going to tell, but still, even when I was typing, 9 to 5 was simpler for me than typing that entrepreneurship, a huge word. So, at last, in the end, in someone's life, happiness is the key factor. That's what we are working for. That's what we're living for. You're a millionaire, you're a billionaire. Doesn't matter if you're not happy, if you have anxiety, if you have depression. That doesn't matter if you're not happy. No matter how much money you have, no matter how much of fame you have, if you're not happy at the end, literally life sucks. So what I am asking is, why should definitely entrepreneurship is not easy, but a 9 to 5 job which pays well will be easier. Let's take Narayana Murthy sir for example. He's a millionaire, he's a billionaire, whatever it is. Let's take Sundar Pichai for example. I am not saying that Sundar Pichai sir's job is very easy, but still he has not got a company. But still, I really think that Sundar Pichai is more famous, has more fame. And to be very honest, what I have is he's earning more than Narayana Murthy sir, what he has ever earned in his life.
Good.
See, yeah, that's a interesting question, and you have actually answered in your own question. I would say, like, it's the key is the happiness part, right? If you get happiness out of building your own business, do it, right? That's the key. I mean, if some people derive happiness out of building their own business or building their own products or in entrepreneurship, if you see entrepreneurship as something like, oh, I have to do it because that's the cool thing to do, or I have to make x amount of money or whatever, then you're not going to get joy out of it, right? So you really enjoy the process, and then money, fame, all of it follows in the process of entrepreneurship. If that gives happiness, do entrepreneurship. If not, then probably stick to the 9 to 5 job, right? Whatever gives happiness, that's what I would say. But entrepreneurship, having been doing there for a while, and also having seen a lot of my friends and my own brother, he was an IT graduate, did a startup in fintech and whatnot. It's not easy, right? It's definitely not an easy thing, and not for everybody. So if you're really really passionate about the space that you're in, and you want to create a change or build a product and disrupt that space, and you have that energy to run, and you have derived joy out of it, then do it. If not, then probably choose a 9 to 5. At the end of it, that's it, right? Whatever gives you happiness. Not sure that answered your question, Shirish, but that's the simplest way of putting it.
He wanted to answer for himself, said Shyamala.
But yeah, if you're happy with your 9 to 5 job, please do go ahead and do it. I think that's a lot easier, right? Definitely than entrepreneurship. Some people, they say, I cannot do 9 to 5 job. For them, they don't derive happiness. They feel like, oh, it's so monotonous. I go and work for somebody else, it's not giving me joy, and I want to do something on my own, that's where I get joy. Then do that, right?
Yeah.
It's a personal choice, and do whatever brings you happiness. As you said, that's the bottom line at the end of the day. Yeah.
Super. Thanks. Next question, Shyamala, is from Anonymous. What is your typical day at work? Just to give an idea to students, and how many touch points you do, and what makes you stay up in the nights.
Sorry, can you repeat that question? Too many layers there. So
I don't know who asked the question. If somebody who asked the question can ask it themselves, that's better.
So this is Subbu. I was just
Hi.
asking, um, like,
Hmm.
what keeps you at work? Like, this was when I went to like some of the investment firms, like in my when I was doing my MBA. I was kind of wondering, like, what do these guys really do? what is it keeps them going. Uh, because a lot of times when you say product manager, I think half the students might not know what exactly is product manager,
Mm.
what goes on in your profile. So
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm.
wanted you to give a flavor on it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, Shubhu. Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think maybe I'll touch upon the what is product management, right? So product management is all about really identifying a key customer problem and trying to solve it, right? That's the high level definition. But it's starting from ideation till building the product, identifying the product market fit, and once you launch the product, how do you continue to iterate on the product, right? Say probably like maybe Ashrish mentioned an example of Sundar Pichai, right? Sundar Pichai was once the product manager for Google Chrome, right? He came up with the idea of, okay, can I have Google Chrome? This is something going to disrupt the internet industry, browser industry, and this is the way I want to measure it, and this is how I want to go the business, right? So he started as a product manager as well. So in my role, what I do as a product manager or what my team does is owning the e-commerce experience, right? So we kind of say, for example, curbside pickup, as I mentioned, right? The pandemic happened and customers are wanting to buy the product, but they're not able to go to the store. How do we solve it? So we can give them a curbside pickup experience. So once we know we want to give that experience, how do we build it from the scratch, right? So how do we solve it? Like, should we do it from the app perspective, right? Geofencing. Let's put the geofencing in the app. So the customers download the app and they go to the store when the geofence and they kind of identify it, and then the store associate can connect to the store devices and they can bring the product and put it in the car or whatever, right? So it's kind of really identifying any of the customer experience problem and solving it through technology, and especially for both e-commerce and mobile devices. It could be your lowes.com. As you see, if you go to www.lowes.com, or if you download the Lowe's app, you kind of able to browse or search for the product and able to purchase the product, right? And a lot of things goes into it, and especially home improvement is a very very complex buying process. Say if you are trying to buy a flooring, right? So you need to identify what flooring do I want to put, right? Is it a tile? Is it like a wooden flooring? Or what sort of a wood I laminate flooring? What sort of a wood should I buy? And what is the amount of things I should buy, right? And if I buy, what is the price that I pay for the product? And you cannot install it yourself, you need somebody else to come and put that flooring for you, right? All of this can happen through online, where what we have enabled for customer is a flooring visualizer using AI, where a customer can actually select a wooden product and see how it is in their house or in the room, right? Living room or wherever it is. And once they select the product, they can add it, and then we have a quoting system where we say, like, based on the size of the room that we scanned, you would need X amount of flooring material, right? And then we give them a quote, and then they can buy the product. And then we say we will also come and install it to you, and then we kind of buy, get some service charges for installation services, right? And then in the back end, we have to work with all of these installers, who is available to go and install the product, and and sourcing the product from supply chain and whatnot to deliver it on time and whatever, right? So the end of the day, it's sort of a product management function is more about really understanding what the customer wants and solving that problem, and also innovating on behalf of the customer, because none of the customer came to and said we want a flooring visualizer, right? But we felt it is important for them. It makes their life easy if we provide a visualizer so that they can see the product in their house and they can make the purchase easier. So that's
That's
what
really
I
a
would
great
say.
idea. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Wish, I think you're on mute.
Deepak, do you want to ask your question next?
Yeah, so thank you, Vish, for the opportunity, and it was an extremely interesting conversation. So thank you so much, Shamla ma'am, for sharing your experience. So I am a B computer science graduate. I'm a and Partha Sarathy's batchmate, CEG 2020 passed out. I'm in right now. I'm in a master's computer science in University of Lena Urbana Champaign. So my question is something. I kind of experimented multiple roles in CEG, as well as I was a student president, and after that I started a non-profit, and I see myself more in leadership and social impact roles. And right now we are also working on another emotional well-being product. But
Mhm.
beyond that, I ask myself, am I doing the right thing? From whatever you express, right, when your life journey, I kind of mostly relate to your experiences. I work a lot. I'm a kind of great workaholic. Nobody can near me when I start working because that's kind of energy I create. So, but at the same time, I feel myself, am I creating impact which I really want to do? I am here in US, but my mind is often thinking about education system in India, healthcare system in India. Can we go back and check everything and start preparing for UPSC? And since I'm also a motivational speaker, I recently get TEDx speech in my UIUC. So I'm having this conflict of interest. Product manager's role is a very good role for me. Since we are also building a product, but so since you have product management experience, I want to hear more of an impact based, like having a person who spend more time in orphanage visits, non-profits, and helping directly see the people's life change. Having so now I have this conflict. Like I feel you could be the best person to clear this or bring me some different perspective on product management as well as the other social impacting thing which I spoke. I hope I was able to express my question clear. I tried my best to put my question, but yeah. So
Yeah, I think glad that you have the right intention. As probably Wish can also, be similar to Wish, right? You have the right intentions in you. I think I would say even in the product management, thing, right? There is a concept called MVP, right? A minimum viable product, right? When you launch something, you don't just go full blown, right? You just and also there's another framework called 3C framework, where you really understand your customer, competition, and your company, right? Where you want to take your company, or what is the advantage, unique USP that you want to bring through your
mm,
company, right? So the 3Cs, I would say, any idea that you have, I mean, you cannot solve all of it, right? So probably you were talking about healthcare, you were talking about like few other areas that you want to create an impact. I would say choose an area where you know come to a point that, okay, at least you come to one area that you want to create an impact, right? And apply this three C framework. Who is the customer that I'm trying to address? Is there a player already exists today, or what is the USP that I'm going to offer, right? And test and
mm,
learn from your MVP. You cannot solve it all, right? Test and learn. Even you are in US, it's okay, but a lot of people operate their company in India, being in US. So you can launch a small MVP, test and learn with a focus group and see how the product is performing, and is it creating the impact that you want to create, right? If you want to scale in the in the larger scale, is it actually creating an impact? I would say, and as I mentioned earlier, experiment, explore. You are actually exploring a lot of different things, and you want to do a lot of things. That's great, but take land on one thing and then experiment
mm.
it, and then see whether it works or not. And if it doesn't work, then possibly you can pivot to the next thing and try and experiment there, right? Until unless you do it, then you wouldn't have that, probably should have tried it, right? It's always been at the back of your mind. Whatever you do,
Yes.
just go ahead and do it, right? And start
Mm,
at a smaller scale. You don't have to put like X amount of investment to do it. Just start small and see how it works. So
Super,
that
mm.
work. Yeah.
super,
Yeah.
super.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. The next, I think I have two more questions in the line.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shyamala, I hope you have time to do those two.
Yes.
I'll go to the last question first. Somebody asking about evangelism, commercializing and marketing versus building our own business. What proves to be more risk-free and worth it? And does the former has a more market? Uh, whoever asked the
Who asked?
question, yeah, can
Yeah.
you, whoever asked the question, can you ask?
Hello, this is me, Harish Khan. I just asked the question.
Okay.
Hey.
Uh, Hello, ma'am. I'm also a core member of the Catalyst. We are only running that community in our college. So my question was between the comparison between evangelism and our own business startup or development, because evangelism is basically based on strategizing and someone else's business, taking it and marketing it and commercializing it. So does that have a more market in international level aspect? Does that have a more market? Or building our own business from the scratch, focusing on an idea, does that have a more risk-free aspect, which has more advantages and market scalability?
I think it's a good question. So I think from the risk-free standpoint, I would probably, anchor towards the first one, because, as probably many of, the whole startups is like, we say, right, 90% of the startups fail, right? It's very, very difficult, to make it, successful. But then I think when you're thinking about a risk-free option, the first one could work better because that business, if that business is already established and it's already has seen a market and everything, and you can be part of that evangelizing or whatnot, right? So that would be a less risk-free. But then if you strongly believe on an idea that you want to build and do all of it, then you can do the second part. But if you're anchoring primarily on risk free, then I would say the first one could be a better option, if not the second one, if you truly want to build the product. Did that answer your question, Harish?
Yes, ma'am. Another question also I have, like, a side, like more like a sub question. See, if I myself have an idea on evangelism, because basically I love to explore a lot of business. I'm not focusing on. I'm doing my mechanical engineer, just like a first very junior, very much junior. So I'm not into. I'm into core as well, but basically I'm exploring a lot of businesses at the same time. I'm into crypto. I'm into blockchain. I'm into finance and whatnot. Many businesses I'm into. I'm learning many things currently. So what I have seen is like I found out many loopholes in big businesses and industries. But how can I make that profitable of my own? For example, let me tell you an example. Recently, I read in newspaper that United Kingdom, the Kingdom of England, the country of England is facing inflation due to lack of sugar imports because India has curbed its sugar exports from here. So that made a huge difference in international market, and it affected the exports of Brazil and China, the next few importers, are major importers of sugar as well. So I saw a market in there at that time of period. I saw a market in there. Maybe around February, I read this news in February, and I saw a market in there. What can I do to make it more profitable towards me? Who can I approach it? How can I approach as an evangelist in a wide running business? Would be your suggestion for me to approach in such a supply chain business?
Yeah, I think again, I mean, leverage your network. There are probably a lot of alumni who are already in that sector or kind of have knowledge in that space, and I would say like reach out to them to see how you can build that kind of connection to solve it. And I think again, I my broad suggestion in your case is I know like you kind of mentioned too many things, right? Crypto and this sugar issue, a lot of different things. I would say size the opportunity, right? I think what is the biggest opportunity that you think, it's going to be addressable, the market is addressable market, and take the biggest possible opportunity. It's always like when you are having 10 things that you want to do, like we always do this value versus effort matrix, right? So this is the maximum value that I can get towards this minimal effort, right? So pick based on that, and also understand that things are can change quite a lot, right? When it comes to policies and all of this, don't entirely make your business prone to such risk, right? Say like a lot of businesses came during COVID, but then after COVID it was primarily around during that period, right? And because if you that is what your intention is, I'm gonna capitalize that time frame and make money out of it and then come out or have a way out of it, that's cool. But if you are looking at a long term, try and solve a long term thing rather than a short term, right? So that's what I would say. But if you are very specific about, you've identified a institutional problem or a policy problem that you want to solve, I would say connect with folks who are already there in that space, and to see how you can build a solution around it.
Super. So we have one last question, Shyamala, before we
Yeah.
close the line from Subbu. Subbu, you want to ask the last question?
Shiva,
Subbu,
I think you're on
you're on mute, Subbu. You're on
you're
mute.
on mute.
So I will let the students ask more questions.
Okay.
If there's any.
I think we are running out of time also. It's 9:24 p.m. So I think we will wrap it up for now, Shyamala. I think it's been a very good session. We had less people than what we expected because India England match is going on right now. I didn't know that India England was going to play today. I didn't think about that, but that might be. But a lot of people are pinging me while I was talking to you about them wanting to watch the recording.
I
Many who
see.
could join said they wanted to watch the recording and maybe even connect with you. So the interest of people wanted to connect with you, they also already have your LinkedIn
Yeah.
profile. If there is any other mechanism by which you are willing to let them connect with you, you can. let us know and we can put it in the chat box. Or if you want to just stay with LinkedIn, that's fine too.
Yeah, I can share my email ID for sure, Vish. I think
Okay.
I can put it here.
Yeah.
So this is my personal email ID, and they can reach out to that. And yeah, of course, I'm on LinkedIn. They can also reach out to me through LinkedIn messages, and I'm happy to respond and connect through that.
Okay.
And please do, if there is any opportunity to mentor and give back to our CG community, I'm always happy to do that because, as you
Uh,
mentioned, it's been
Yeah.
played a crucial role in our career. So I think definitely would love to give back.
So many opportunities for that. On the business side, we have incubators in the campus where we are incubating on startups and we want people to mentor them. There are some women-led startups which would probably benefit a lot from a women-led mentor as well. There are also people who are doing e-commerce businesses who might need some help. We have Akriti, the student club, the girls club, where they are meant for girls by girls, and they can obviously take some help in programs from you. And then the last thing I would say is women alumni together can contribute something more bigger together than individually as well. So I want to try
Yeah.
and see if I can connect you to some of the other speakers I had to see if you guys can together maybe put together something that can be a
Hmm.
combination of all the above to help people generally. And I reach out to all of them. You have
Yeah.
complementary skills. I see people, the other people who came to the call had very different skills, but all equally shown in their career with lots of challenges and lots of things coming in the way, and still they succeeded. And most of them had the same general theme: never take no for an answer, and just keep doing it, plugging in, show up, don't give up, etc. The same sort of themes, and it seems to work. So people who are in the call should take that and say it works. Doing all those things may be very boring and pedantic, but it actually works and produces results. So we have a lot of examples, including yourself for that. So, but excellent excellent session today. Thank you so much for joining and sharing all your things. You also shared your personal stories, which is quite amazing as well. And showing vulnerability is also an important thing that people to relate to you as a person than just the CD leader, etc. All that. So good luck to you with your job. I love Lowe's. We used to be a big Lowe's customer when I lived in the US. We never used to go to Home Depot. We used to go to Lowe's because I thought Lowe's
Right.
had a more personal touch. I thought
Yeah,
at the time. Lowe's
that's
wasn't
awesome.
that Lowe's wasn't that big as big at the time as Home Depot, but they became bigger later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always loved going there. But thank you for your time, and thank you all of you guys for joining the call today. And we will continue to improve this session. The next session will be next month, November end, last Sunday. I already had the speakers planned for that, so that will be coming up very soon. There is a comment from Harish Srikant. Felt like what is the comment, Harish Srikant? Felt like I had listened to a female version of Wings of Fire.
Oh wow. Okay, that's pretty strong. Thank you, Harish, for the kind words.
Wings
Appreciate
of
it.
Fire.
Thank you.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I get to gain a lot of knowledge from you tonight, ma'am. Didn't it?
Oh,
It's
it's my
very much
pleasure.
inspiring. Yes, ma'am.
It's my pleasure, Harish. My
I would like
pleasure.
to travel and work with you because I'm on that part. So I will email you soon, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's connect. Thank you, Harish.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
ma'am. Thank
So
you.
with that, we'll close the call, Shyamala. And what we'll do is
Yeah,
we'll take the recording and send it to you. If you want to review it before we post it, Partha can create the recording and you can take a quick look. Because some speakers of mine want to get approval from the companies before you can post it publicly. So I don't know if Lowe's has a policy like that, but we can send you the video after a bit of editing that we will do, and you can watch it and maybe even share it with someone. If that's okay, then we can publish it sometime next week in our CG Connect YouTube channel.
sounds
uh,
good.
and then we'll keep in touch. And as I said, I will try and connect you to other speakers so we can do something together. Cool. And
Yeah.
I'm sure my daughter, who's a product manager in Google, would want to connect with you because she's very much into product management.
Oh, nice.
So I'm sure she will want to. My daughter is in Google doing product management. Her husband is in Spotify doing product management, and
In where is he doing?
he's in Spotify.
Oh,
Spotify.
since what? Oh, okay. Spotify. Oh,
Spotify.
nice.
He's in Spotify and she's in Google. Both are product managers. So I'm sure I'll ask both of them to connect with you to see if we can, because they are all been product managers for like 3-4 years now, not very much, and they want to learn more. So maybe there are some things you can share with them that could be
For sure.
helpful and
For sure.
inspiring to them. So I'll ask them
Yeah.
to connect with you and learn from you as well. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Vish, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed the conversation. And I think the learning was mutual because every question I think was very thoughtful. And, I really love the energy that came through in the session. So thank you, Vish, for inviting and also putting together the session. I truly
Thank
appreciate it. And thanks for everyone's time.
Thank you so much. Today being a
Thank you
Sunday
so
evening,
much, man.
so it's good. So thank you all of you for joining, and